companies that you don't typically think of as using AI. Roofer. So this is a roofer sales assistant tool. Now, what does this tool do? So one of the problems with roofers is that they often miss opportunities for actually selling their services. So what happens? You have some hail that made some holes in your roof. You call a roofer. The roofer comes. They give you a quote. Maybe they go on top of your roof, or they send a drone. They give you a quote, and then they leave you alone to deal with insurance. Now, we don't really know how to deal with insurance unless you are an insurance specialist. I don't think I heard any here. And so lots of people, when they try to deal with insurance, aren't very successful. Either their claim gets denied, or they get coverage for replacing like 10 shingles. And so that's not great for the homeowner. It's also not great for the roofer. It's great for the insurance. And so this tool is meant to help roofers work with homeowners to guide them hold their hand while they're going through the insurance process. So this is what the tool does. So let's take a look at it. The first thing. So you might notice this is built using the ChatGPT interface. We can talk about different tools later and which ones to use. But this one is built using the ChatGPT interface. And the first part is what the roofer inputs. So the roofer has this tool on their tablet, or they can have it on their phone, or they can have it on their iPad or something like that, or on their laptop. But what the roofer does is, again, they go to the roof or send a drone to the roof to take some pictures of damage. And so you'll see those pictures of damage. Get the light off. Let's see. Okay. So you take pictures of damage. That's the first one. Then the second thing that they put in is this renewal package with the bill. So that you get that package from the homeowner, and you upload that into the AI tool so that it knows which insurance it's dealing with. And then you say what you want. So this is kind of jargony terms that roofers use that they know. 2-layer tear-off code trigger generates strategy, 2 layers of shingles, claim for collateral, hail indicators, and so on. So this is just a paragraph that the roofer knows what they want to accomplish. Again, the roofers are an expert on roofing. They're an expert on stuff like this. They're not an expert on insurance. And so the next part is what the AI will generate to help the roofer guide the homeowner through the process. So first, it shows that it knows what the code is, gives the links for codes, Ohio Governor, Gov, progressive.com, that it's a progressive insurance claim. Then it gives a plain English coverage snapshot, so giving a brief overview of why it matters. All claim notices and sites. It gives the wind hail deductible, 10% of coverage A, why it matters. Explains the damage exclusions. We must prove direct physical loss beyond appearance or rely on code triggers and collateral. All of this stuff. Then it gives, so that's the summary. Then it gives kitchen table talking points that the roofer will use when now having the conversation with the homeowner. So the roofer will say, we're filing for direct physical loss, explain what they're doing, and because your roof has 2 layers, Ohio residential code requires a full tear-off before any new roof work, which is great. That's what the roofer wants to hear. They don't want to replace 10 shingles, that's a $2,000 job. They want to replace the whole roof, that's a $20,000 job. So that's excellent. So we'll prove mismatch using collateral hits on soft metals, gutters, and caps, and apply Ohio's reasonable comparison appearance rule. So then the next is the step-by-step timeline of each claim, of what happens. So they explain to the homeowner what will happen and giving the homeowner confidence that they know what they're doing and that they will be able to go through the claim process effectively. So going on all the details of the timeline, then they go into anticipated claims adjuster objections. And so they tell the homeowner how they will handle the inevitable objections from the claims adjusters, who the claim adjusters obviously don't want to pay out money. So say that we'll repair a few shingles. To address that, you do side-by-side photos with available free tabs, slope, wide shots showing weathering, and with the Ohio code that says replace as much to result in a reasonably comparable appearance. And so a patch won't be reasonably comparable in appearance, therefore you need to do the whole roof tear-off. So you can see where this logic is going. And so again, giving all the objections, then giving documentation checklists, so all the documents that are going to be necessary. Then exact talking points for the adjuster on site. So once the adjuster comes on site to inspect the roof, it guides the homeowner and the roofer to what are the talking points. For example, the roof has 2 layers. Ohio code prohibits installation of a 3rd layer. So any legal repair requires full tear-off to the deck. Great. So again, $20,000 job instead of $2,000 job. Then claim timeline actions will execute. So going through to be an ally to the homeowner. Escalation paths if denied or short paid. Photo capture plan. How this ties to direct physical loss, which is what we need to prove. And next, you can ask it for other things like draft the proof of loss cover letter or on-site inspection script. I'm not going to show it to you. I think you get the idea. So you can keep asking questions that are going to be the important things that it needs for our next steps. So imagine this tool adapted to your own sales process, whatever you're doing. Think about your own sales process when you're trying to sell something. If you're trying to sell anything that's a little bit more complex than a $10 widget, and you want to actually adapt it to your customer, you want to explain how they will benefit from it, this is a great tool. So kind of thinking about how do you adapt it and how do you interpret it and how do you customize it to your customer's needs, this is the kind of thing that you want to be thinking about. So think about how the expertise of your best salespeople can be used for each individual person. And so this is going to be really helpful. So write down some ideas at this stage where you think you can use a tool of this type. I'll give you 30 seconds. And in the meantime, there's a question here.
You're probably going to get into this, and if you are, just tell me.
I will.
This is seems like it lends itself to an agentic or an iterative type of an approach versus just, lobbing the prompts at it and then responding to it. Could you know where I'm going with this? Could you address that, please?
Sure. So this is where you have other questions, other things that you put into it. So in terms of agentic, what does agentic mean? Agentic means is a tool that can accomplish certain goals in the world. And so this is a tool that's meant to accomplish certain outcomes. So produce certain types of output. And then it can produce additional output based on that. So yes, in that sense, it's agentic.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So again, 30 seconds, write down some ideas, and then I'll take some questions before going on to show you how to build this tool.